Welcome. For those who just tuning in, I've accidentally pressed the wrong button. So there are two streams right up now with day 3. Well, at least one is cut off. I don't know if I can enter that from this. I don't think so. Anyway, I hope that people will find me here today. So I'll wait a little bit longer for people who pushed on the wrong one. Okay, welcome, day 3, Mastering the Art of Living, of our 99 days together. Welcome again. I've had some feedback that my voice is not loud enough, so I arranged or bought a microphone today, which will arrive somewhere this week, hopefully, and hopefully that gets the sound better, because I also notice when I'm well, almost like sensing within, my voice gets softer. So it's if I want to speak up, I feel that I'm more like focusing on my voice, which I don't want to do. So I hope the microphone helps to keep it loud and clear for you. Yesterday we talked about sensing the heart and elevating senses within your whole body. Become aware of your senses. And that's an ongoing point of awareness and point of practice throughout these 99 days. So I won't repeat many practices on this, but please keep repeating and integrating this daily practice in your daily life, because that's really what's necessary. I can't express that enough. Because if you don't do the practice, you won't feel the change. It's as simple as that. It will stay a mind exercise, and you think you've got it all, and you probably have in your mind, but you cannot make the real transformation. And today I'm going to explain a little bit more why that is, and why the interaction between the mind and our body is so important during a transformation, and understanding exactly how the mind works, how emotions work, and how your system is running on unconscious programs. And becoming aware of those programs is what helps you to transform these programs so they won't appear again in your life. So what actually happens in our daily life when we are not so aware is that we have a body system, who's also called our unconscious mind, and we have our mind. And even of our mind, we're not often conscious, but let's call that a conscious mind. And every action starts with a thought. Anything you do, it starts always with a thought. Even how quick the thought is followed up by an emotion or a feeling and then followed up by an action, it always starts with a thought. And these thoughts are the most interesting thing in itself. No one has been able to tell me where these thoughts are coming from, but it has shown in many scientific proof and research, or in many scientific research, that we all think that these thoughts are very real to us and tell us a lot of truth about us and about the situation and about the world and about life. So they are really real to us. And that in itself, you can say, is not such a problem. But as a thought leads to a feeling or an emotion and creates your action, it also creates your personality. So you could simply say that a thought, an emotion, and an action is what you are today, is how you appear today in life. So if you want to change your life, it goes even further, because it's not only how you appear in life, but it's also how a life appears to you. And that I will explain a little bit later. So once again, when a thought comes up, the thought is often telling us something about the past. So a memory comes up, which is a thought. And then with this memory, there is a story behind. And often with this story, there's a lot of emotion behind, or one emotion behind. And especially when it's a more intense memory, or something that created a lot of tension, or grief, or pain, or anger, or frustration, we get into this emotion immediately. And that's this unconscious body of us that just shows us this emotion and the pain or frustration or whatever emotion was behind it. It shows up immediately. So let's say you wake up and the day before you had a rough day at work or an argument with your partner, and you wake up and the first thing you think about is what happened yesterday. And before you know it, you're back in the emotion of what happened. And that actually draws you back into what happened and defines how you feel at that moment. And then it might even get you into the action of expressing the anger again or the frustration to your partner. And then you actually amplify the same emotion again and again and again. Well, let's say you don't take any action, you just do nothing, but you still feel the emotion of the frustration or the anger in your body and in your mind, and your stories gets really stronger, and you're reliving the same thing again and again. And you even imagine other things that might have happened. So that's a lot of interpretation, what is often happening in your mind. You actually confirming the same emotion again in your body. So let's say this same event happened a year ago, but it came up because something reminded you of that what happened and what had hurt you before, or annoyed you before, or irritated you before. Sometimes people keep lingering that same emotion the whole year. It's just always there somewhere in the background, and they're still frustrated, and they're expressing their anger towards others, whomever it is, or the person who they think was responsible for it. And they keep feeling that same low emotion, because often these emotions are emotions that contain lower frequencies. So these emotions feel heavy. So you keep repeating in your life the same heaviness that you actually don't really want, but you're keeping it alive, simply. And because you're keeping it alive, and it's also in your body, stored in your body still, because you keep confirming it in your system, you don't release it, like we talked about yesterday. You also exude this emotion externally. And as I said on day one, we're all energetic beings, or I might not have said it, but anyway, we're all energetic beings. We just actually consist only of energy. And our energy in our body that I'm talking about, these emotions, these frustrations, or this pain in our body, which is stored memory, is just pure energy there. And the thought and the emotion that happened on a certain day, on a certain moment, is also energy. So you're actually just sending out signals to the world of a lower frequency. And guess what? Energy attracts like energy. So by exuding this sometimes unconscious emotion, because it's still stored in your body, even if you're not thinking about it, it's still there, you're attracting the same energy. So you keep repeating the same story, like I'm still meeting the people who treat me bad, or I'm still caught up in this situation and it happens to me again, and in the end, because you're so caught up in this process that keeps repeating itself, you expect the external world to change your life. So you're projecting actually the action for change and the request for change. You expect that to happen by someone of something else. That should save you. That's how you believe it works. But it doesn't work like that. No one will transform you. No one will transform this old pain. But the beauty is you can. You can all do it yourself. So you get control over your life by only realizing this, that it's really up to you. It's not up to you what happened to you in a certain moment, but it's really up to you how you deal with it. So can you just leave that single event? Can you keep that to a single event, preventing it for not repeating, and prevent yourself from not repeating the same story again and again and again? If you can just isolate the event, even how bad the event and how intense and how traumatic the event has been, today it's no longer in your life. Only the emotion about that event is in your life. And whether it's a very traumatic one or just a small trauma, doesn't really matter. The process is the same. Only the release on heavy traumatic experiences is a little bit more difficult than on small ones. But most of the people get really caught up in small events. And they keep feeling sorry for themselves that it keeps happening. And so I would like to emphasize and try to make you realize that you are fully in control of this process. And you're the only one who is in control of this process. Which to me, when I got that insight, was amazing news. Because I suddenly felt like, wow, I can change my life. Things I don't like, I can change. And so that's how my work has been over the past 7 years. I just looked at everything that came by, and I'm still doing that. And I just released the pain that was under it, that was still there when it came up. And it got less and less and less and less. And guess what? Most of them are not coming back anymore. And some of them, unfortunately, are still very stubborn and keep coming back. But I'm also very aware that I am the one who keeps them alive. And because it's like a programming, it's sometimes very difficult the toughest one you often were caused to you or happened to you when you were young are the ones that are most difficult to release. And that also becomes used because it often happens in family environments and you're still confronted with that environment or the absence of that environment. But as it was your early days, it's very imprinted in your program. So those are the most difficult ones to release. And that's one of the reasons why your family and loved ones are the ones that trigger you most. So just leave the heavy traumatic things just aside for now, or the ones that happened in your early youth. Just think about, to practice with this, just think about the little things that happen in life. Just the little annoyances that happen in life, like you go to a store and someone is rude to you and it irritates you or annoys you. Actually you feel the irritation in your system, or you drive in traffic and someone cuts you off, or drives through red light and you have to brake, and it really annoys you. And then just that emotion comes up immediately, and you even express it. So there's an action in your words. You even express it like, well, I won't use the bad words now, but you can imagine what you say. And just think about that. What is actually happening? Someone else is doing something. Of course, you remember of the traffic, or you just walking in that store. And obviously, it's not really nice the other person does it. But does it really affect you? Is it really worth getting annoyed about it? What would happen if you just smile and let go of it? Does it really change? I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, it changes for me for the better, because I feel much better. The annoyance and irritation doesn't really help me. It only pulls me down. And I cannot change the behavior of other person. I can only change my reaction to it. So all those little irritations, or little triggers, as we call them, trigger is just triggering some emotion in you, is often linked to a value or a belief system we have within us. Like, for instance, if you are annoyed often about traffic rules that are not followed by other traffic members, then you might have something in your system like, it's very important to follow rules, or rules are important, or well, you might be very keen on discipline, in like order, like everyone is doing the same thing in the right way as we have been told, because that's how it works. And that's why it annoys you when someone crosses these rules. But what does it bring you? If you really have the feeling that you have to correct people on this, then you have to look for a job where you can really do it, like being a policeman. But for the rest, it doesn't really help you at that moment, sitting in the car or being in the store, to address that anger or frustration. And it even gets worse often. Then you get home and you were annoyed because there was a lot of traffic on the road, and you got later than you expected because it was busier. And then you get annoyed again. And then you repeat the story that happened in the car, you repeat to your partner. And then again, you increase that emotion again in your system. And if you don't release it consciously, it gets stored there. And that's how we build up, eventually, with all little things, we build up stress. Or actually an overload of our system, or we get really tired. And that tiredness is something you can even deal with. But what for me became very important, that the shift when I saw that I don't want to attract it into my life anymore. So as soon as I'm in low frequency, I attract low frequency actions or behavior around me. But if I'm in a high frequency, so that feels like I'm not irritated, not annoyed, I don't have fears, or I don't feel anger, or I don't feel lonely, all those low frequencies. You can look at the famous overview if you want to have some more words around it. But if you get into the frequency where you feel like this alignment with your presence and this peacefulness within, then those annoyances don't really happen, or I don't notice them. Perhaps they happen, but perhaps I drive more carefully, or it just doesn't appear. or it can even not annoy me anymore. And if someone bumps into me in a store with his whatever, he doesn't look out or he's rude to me, I can only think like, wow, you must have had a bad day. I feel sorry for you. And then that's it. So I would almost say that and it's a conscious, no, that this is quite important to express. It's not just a positive thinking. It goes way more deeper than that. Because, and that's why I really want to express it, if I know many people who I can sense when I meet them are very uncomfortable in that moment, or stressed, or I can just feel their body energy. And then I ask, how are you? Oh, it's great, it's amazing. No, everything goes fine. And then I think like, wow, I hear you say it, but I don't feel it. And obviously it's okay, it's everyone's choice. But overriding it with just positive thinking and ignoring actually what's in your system is where the stress really gets caught up, literally, in your body. And then there's one day, then you just are burnout, or get ill, or anyway, you just, most of the time it's illness. And the body just say, I don't take it any longer. My system is overloaded. I need to rest now. And of course, it can be caused by working hard and physically being very intensely active for a long time, like making long hours of work. Of course, that can also cause stress and overload in the system. But most of our illnesses and stress in our system, or disbalance in our system, comes from stress. All these little emotions that are stored into us in our system, because we are unconscious about it. And that's why now meditation is also scientifically again, and it helps that science and consciousness is now coming together. And meditation is proven as a very valuable and healthy exercise practice daily, to release everything in your system daily, like daily cleansing. Like we take a shower every day, we should clear our inner body every day. And there are various forms of meditation. Doesn't have to be sitting on a pillow. It can be done in many ways. And in the end, it all comes down to just staying in presence. Well, what I found really fascinating when I was taught by someone about how the mind works, and there will be other days where I go deeper into that process. But the fact that there are just random thoughts all the time, actually, all day long, at least in my system, but in many, I know. And it's so interesting how a thought becomes a story so easily. And especially when there's emotion attached to that thought, which doesn't feel so nice. And then it creates a story. And in that story, there are often so many interpretations or assumptions made about the situation. And for A, the story is no longer relevant because it's not happening in that moment. And B, the assumptions are often not tested. And before you know it, you've taken action and expressed your frustration or anger or fear or whatever towards that other person. And I was guilty of that quite recently, actually, 3 days ago. I did it again. Something triggered me. Bam, got down into my story, blew it up, and projected it outward. So I would like to see this becoming aware of thoughts and emotions and your actions, this process, especially in the beginning. Just become aware of it. Don't do anything. Just let the trigger happen as it always happened. And I know there are some couples in this group, and it would really be extremely helpful if you could just try to find a way together how you can explore this, that you give the other person space and you don't react to what's happening, and you just play it out without you taking it personal. So you just really, really become aware of the process. And the other partner can reflect on you. Like, wow, I saw this happening. Is that how you felt it? And you can say, no, there was a lot more in my mind. I created a whole story around it and I made assumptions. And that's why I came to this frustration or anger. And with little things, just by yourself. Just first become aware of when you get these little irritations or judgments. Judgments is another one we're going to talk about. I think I will take one session for that because that's a big one, judgments. And releasing these old stored emotions doesn't go at once. It goes step by step. And that's why it's so incredibly helpful that we are triggered. Because if we're not triggered, the old stored emotion doesn't get visible or noticeable in our life. And that's the moment when we can release it. Before we put another story on top of it, we can release that old emotion. And the releasing happens by literally just sitting with it in your presence and just open your heart space. And just actually do nothing, but just be completely open. Don't take it personal. Don't make a story out of it. Just observe the contracted energy or whatever you feel in your body. And that takes practice. At least for me, it took a lot of practice. This was to me taught 7 years ago, and I'm not expecting you to take 7 years for this, because I took many side roads and finally came back to the same I started with. But the daily practice I had in my 99 days last year, this was where I really, really released the deeper blocked emotions, memories. So for today, I really wanted to focus on just I would almost say the technical process of what's happening. And there's a lot more to tell about triggers and limiting belief systems and values. But I don't think I'll manage that today, looking at the clock. So for now, just become aware of it. That's really the best and biggest step. And for some people, it helps to journal, to write things down, to make it more explicit, and even writing down, by the way, especially when you talk about old memories that are stored and come up because of an event that happened again or triggered it, the old memory. Writing down is a very, with a pencil, not with a computer or with your hand, is a very healing process in itself. And I've had many conversations with people before, and they say, well, how can you be so distant, or why don't you care about when people had huge traumas in the past? And then I said, this is not a message that I don't care about it. It's awful what people have endured in their lives, really awful. But if right now your life offers a safe place and you're healthy, or at least healthy enough to have an okay living, and you have people around who love you, and you're not threatened, your life is not directly threatened by external factors, like you don't live in a war, you have enough food to eat, then holding on to that old trauma that happened many, many years ago isn't helping you today, isn't helping you yesterday, and isn't helping you tomorrow. On the contrary, it actually creates, if you hold on to it so much and it keeps activating it into your life through this thought pattern and activating your memory about it and your emotions, it doesn't transform your life. It doesn't bring your life to other experiences that are nicer and make you more happy, make you feel more happy. And for real intense traumas that happened in the past, other techniques are most likely needed, like EMDR, for instance, to reprogram that, to really let go of that trauma. I mean, technically, I believe you can heal anything with the process I'm explaining about releasing blocked energy. But why not have help from other experts that are so experienced in this? But it all starts with a choice. You have the choice whether you want to transform and change your life, or whether you want to hold on to the past. That's a conscious choice that you can only make. No one else can make that for you. And you cannot change the past. What happened, happened. And when you go through life, like for me, and I've always been very sensitive, I guess, but I never really knew what was happening. So I was always picking up energies from other people, especially the low frequencies were always very heavy on me, but I didn't really know it was their energy. I always thought it was mine. or I had to do something with it, and I wanted to make other people feel better. So I was trying to please everyone around me because I could sense the disbalance, and I was trying to release that somehow by not doing anything, but on the contrary, by making it personal, was actually was holding on to that frequency for everyone. So what I was trying to do actually was the opposite. What I was hoping to do was actually the opposite. I just kept that frequency in place. And now, when I'm more aware of energies and sensitive, my body is so much more sensitive. I pick up everything. Well, not everything, but at least so much more intensely, and it comes in straight, like so. So for me, if people have experienced trauma, I can sense that pain. So instead of I'm being more disattached, I'm actually completely open to it and very compassionately open to it. And now I know that I don't need to take it personal, because that's not helping anyone. On the contrary, I have to let go of it or be with it. And it's not always, the release doesn't always happen. And sometimes I take it with me and then I have to release it at home. But the beauty is that because of this higher sensitivity, or more, well, I think my system kind of opens up more. It kind of goes through me more easily. So I sense it. It kind of it gets released into my system, and then it's gone. Mm. And for other people who are highly sensitive and have difficulty in dealing with a lot of signals that are coming from the outside, like a busy shopping mall, for instance, or IKEA on a Saturday is really really intense place if you're highly sensitive. But if you don't know how to deal with it and ignore it, you kind of carry it around with you. You take it with you, literally. And then it's become, this world is for high sensitive people really an intense place to be. But I hope for the high sensitive people in this group that you can turn it around and actually become just this empty vessel for these intense frequencies, and you don't take it personal anymore. And by not taking it personal and just letting it go through your system, you're literally healing at that moment other people or other environments. So it's a gift. And by the way, everyone is a sensitive being. Just more people are more born with being aware of what's happening in their bodies. They're sensing more than others. It's just, I think, a difference in how you've been wired. Well, this was a lot of information, I think. I'm just going to sit here a little bit longer in silence. You can stay tuned or whatever you like. And if you drop with me in this silence, take a deep breath. Just let go of what I told you. It will all come back when it's needed. You don't have to do anything with it. You can become aware of it, but there's no active doing. It will come back. Okay, I'm going to end this day, this live stream. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.